What is going on, guys? It is yours truly, the Miracle Man, back bringing you another video. In this video, I 100%ed every single Harry Potter game in preparation for Hogwarts Legacy. This is part 1 of 2. Part 2 will be released on Wednesday, February 2nd. This is going to be a two-parter because, God, there is a lot to compile in this franchise. So originally I was thinking about doing every Harry Potter game ever on every single console. And thank goodness I didn't do that because, whoo, that would have been a journey. Just the PlayStation Harry Potter games alone, I had a total of 11 games. Also included in this video, I'm going to have some shots of Hogwarts Mystery. That's the phone game. I've been playing this game for 3 years now. This game is way more fun than people give it credit for. Or maybe I'm just that big of a Harry Potter fan. I don't know. I'm a year 7. I'm working through that story. And it's been an absolute blast for me. This Harry Potter franchise has absolutely affected me in so many ways, and it has been an absolute joy to go back to this franchise. Not only to replay all these games again, but to play the games that I never played in the franchise, as well as see why we were all so excited and are still very excited for the release of Hogwarts Legacy. So without further ado, how I'm going to do these videos is I'm going to be jumping into each game. I'm going to be giving you a review of how the games played out according to the films. We're going to be basing this on the films. I know they throw some stuff in from the books, but for the most part, I'll be kind of explaining where those parts come into play in the games. But other than that, this is going to be mainly focused on the movies to game comparison, not game to book comparison. And then I'm just going to explain what it was like to get the 100% in these games and what kind of challenges we had to do, what the magic was like, how the gameplay felt, and of course, them lovely graphics. We got to talk about those, right? Because, oh, they were just glorious, weren't they? Look at how beautiful they look. Lovely. The first game on my list was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's or Philosopher's Stone, whichever you prefer. This game was an absolute joy for me as a kid. But as for the gameplay, holy cow, for a game that was made in 2001, the gameplay's not that bad. You know, the sliding mechanics, I didn't really do much of it in the game, but the sliding mechanics in this game are absolutely fantastic. I wanted to jump in and say the reason I picked the PlayStation Harry Potter games was because this is what I grew up on. I'm a PlayStation channel. But however, I will say that I've played many of the GBA games. I played many of the later versions. But where this game really fell short on was the models, because holy cow, I don't know what they were thinking with this game. I get that it's the PlayStation 1, but man, some of these models are struggling. And it just doesn't do any pleasure for the eyes, and pleasure for no one, to be honest with you. Let's jump into the game versus the movie, and let's see exactly how these two matched up together. It was really hard to find things that matched up with the movie, because for those of you guys that don't know, this game actually released before the Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone movie came out. So they were just basing this off of the book entirely. And so it really doesn't follow the movie close at all. There's a lot of different spots in the game, and there's really nothing that matches up. For example, in the game, you start out already at Hogwarts. They skip over the Gringotts section entirely. And it's really, really hard to follow the movie after that, because potions doesn't happen until way later on in the game. And in the movie, it's one of the first scenes. But I will say one thing that I thought this game really excelled on was the end of game run. From everything from the first thing that was guarding the stone all the way to the very last thing, I think they did it very well. There's this really, really cool boss fight with Fluffy that I think is absolutely incredible. I actually had a blast with it, and it was actually a lot easier than I remember. Even though Fluffy just, like I said, those models. After the Fluffy fight, then you get into a fight with the Devil's Snare, which is just a huge, dungeon boss fight. Then after the Devil's Snare fight, it's time to jump into a chess game, which is absolutely insane to watch because you watch each individual piece move towards you. So if you mess up, the pieces actually slowly move towards you, and you slowly start to realize how screwed you truly are, and it's really, really terrifying. And then after that, you jump into one of the most infamous parts of the game for me personally as a child. You have to Wingardium Leviosa everything out the way of this troll that is slowly woken up but is still groggy and slowly sleepwalking towards you. If he touches you, he wakes up and kills you. If you leave an object in its path, he also kills you. Now, I did this perfectly on my first run because I was so terrified of seeing that death screen. That death screen literally gave me nightmares as a kid. I went back and made a save specifically at this point, and I went back and killed myself intentionally just to get that death screen for this video. And it was actually not as terrifying as I thought it was going to be. But as a kid, I could definitely see how it would mess with my head a little bit, because this troll is just an absolute monstrosity. And I think it has something to do with the models too. I mean, look at this thing. And then after that, you jump into a little potion section. It's just one of those follow this and pick the right object, and if you don't, you're going to have to fight another knight. And then after that, you get just one of the most terrifying boss fights in any video game ever, just because of the models. Let me tell you, the models in this game are nothing compared to Quirrell, and definitely nothing compared to the back of Quirrell's head, aka Voldemort. This thing looks absolutely terrifying. Outside of that, though, the boss fight is actually pretty good. You start in the room with 3 white knights and 1 black knight with a shield. The 3 white knights come and charge at you, and you have to deal with those 2 at a time. And then, of course, you have to deal with the black knight last. And then after that, Voldemort spawns a giant knight. And the giant knight comes at you, and you find out that the giant knight is not that much harder than the rest of the knights. That kind of sucks. I kind of wish he had like a bigger sword, or, you know, maybe if there was like a crouch feature or something, maybe we could have crouched under a sword that he swung at us. But it's PS1 time, so I guess we'll give it a pass for now. But the boss fight with Quirrell / Voldemort is absolutely incredible. There's Locomoto Mortis spells that you have to avoid in the first phase, while slowly dropping the pillars on top of him around him, slowly taking away his health. After you do enough damage to that, it takes you into phase 2, where you're literally using the Mirror of Erised as a weapon, firing a Flipendo charged blast right at Voldemort. And then after that, it takes you right into phase 3, which in my opinion is the more interesting part. It's just a quick time event where you have to spam X as much as possible until the triangle button appears, and then you press the triangle button. But the way that this is angled and the way that Quirrell looks, it doesn't look good, and it just looks really, really weird. Especially with the stuff that Quirrell is saying in the background, it doesn't help. And we're just going to move on from this, because I'm afraid if I talk about this anymore, my Professor Quirrell sleep paralysis demon is going to come to me in my nightmares, and I really don't want to see that thing anymore. The 100% in this game is really what makes this game a little stressful and really difficult in some sections. And this is why I left out Gringotts. I wanted to give this piece of trash section its own part, because I got some things to say about this. This section absolutely sucks. The floors are freshly polished, and the way that you can tell is because there's a goblin that's wiping the floor, polishing it right when you walk into the room, making the floor extra slippery. First off, the whole reason you need to go to Gringotts in the first place is to get some tonic for Norbert. And, you know, Harry being the good Samaritan that he is, he wants to help Hagrid out and help him get his money from Gringotts. However, the goblins are pieces of shit, and they don't just give Harry the money that is his money, by the way. He has this money from his parents. The goblins are owed this man his money. If you're going for the 100%, this is where the struggle is going to come in for you. Throughout the game, you will find little hidden secret paths or little hidden secret passages that may or may not contain a Witches and Wizards card or a mini game that at the end will give you a famous Witches and Wizards card. To get the secret ending, you need to get all the Witches and Wizards cards. There are 17 total in the game. I would say about 12 to 13 of them are pretty easy to find if you're just looking for the secret passages. They're not really hard to find. You can see the holes in the passages if you look close enough. However, it is not easy when it comes to Gringotts, because Gringotts, to get the Witches and Wizards cards, in each section that you have to get your Knut, Sickle, and Galleon, there's one challenge for each, one wizard card for each. When you see a little blue gem in the top right corner of your screen with the coin in front of it, that means that you must collect every single coin in that section to make the gems pop. You must do this because you have to collect all the gems to get the Witches and Wizards card. Meaning that you have to collect all the coins to make the gems appear first, then you have to collect all the gems to get the Witches and Wizards card. And this is where the gameplay hurts the soul a little bit, because the cart turns extremely slow. There are so many sections where you're going so fast in the Sickle challenge especially, and it's so hard to turn the cart fast enough. You're going to fail the first 2 or 3 times on this because it is just not possible to turn the cart. There's only one other thing that I thought was really, really bad in this game, and that was the flying. For some reason, it don't matter if you're using the D-pad or the analog stick, the flying in this game is horrendous. You can see it on camera. I am an avid gamer. I do a lot of flying games. You will see in the later Harry Potter games how well I did at my flying when there was good controls. However, it didn't matter how much I practiced my flying in this one because the controls were just awful. And it doesn't help when the snitch is going all over the place, and it just really doesn't help when you don't have that tight turning on your moves, just like with the Gringotts section. So when you have to move back and forth quickly to get to a ring or to avoid a bludger quickly, or if the seeker comes and knocks you out the way and then you have to get back on course, it really becomes a pain in the ass to really maneuver around these rings and get them all. But once you get all 17 cards in that game, that is 100%, and you get the secret ending, which is going to be the same for a lot of Harry Potter games. It is Harry Potter on his own Quidditch card. Wow, that's awesome, isn't it, guys? Well, get used to it because that is literally the secret ending for every single Harry Potter game, almost, in this video. We'll talk about it later, but I've got some things to say about this secret ending. In this one, it's fine, though, because it's the first time they did it, so it's pretty cool. You get the whole collection, you get 18 wizard cards, and of course, the final boss, Slytherin itself. Of course, because they're the worst house, they're the evil house, Gotta keep that stereotype going. However, in retrospective, even though this doesn't follow the movie that much, the game is actually really, really fun. I had a lot of fun with this game as a child, and I really had a lot of fun with this game in the PlayStation 1 version. Even though John Williams hadn't come up with the Harry Potter score yet, this is absolutely Harry Potter feel. It just feels Harry Potter when you're listening to this music. It just feels like something that would be in a Harry Potter game or a Harry Potter movie. And it really, really threw me off as a kid that it wasn't the Harry Potter theme. But playing it as an adult, it really kind of dawned on... It's really kind of weird that it never dawned on me how good this music sounded, even though it was not done by John Williams at all. Nostalgia for this game for me is at an all-time high. I loved this game. However, the gameplay is so outdated and hard to control, and those models, they are just, oh man, they're glorious. Take them how you wish, but it's a tough game. It's a tough game if you're playing it for the first time, especially in 2022, but it was an absolute joy to go back and play this game, and it was so much fun to play. You know what? As a matter of fact, we're going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's going to be a 7 out of 10. I think it deserves that. Let's go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. And without further ado, let's jump into Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. For the Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets, I decided to jump to the PlayStation 2 version because this is actually the version I played the most as a kid. I didn't even realize that Argonaut Software did another Harry Potter game on the PlayStation 1. I have played that game too. It's essentially the same as the PS1 version, except there's duels and more boss fights and a few other things along the way. It's not enough for me to go back and play it over this game because this game was my childhood. I played the absolute crap out of this game as a kid, and it was so much fun to go back to it as an adult. I never 100%ed this game until today, so it was... I never 100%ed this game, though, until this video. So it was actually really fun to get the 100% and find out what the secret ending was. This was actually the first Harry Potter game that I played that introduced open world aspect. You fly on rooftops, and there's actually challenges later if you want to go for the 100%, where you actually have to fly through rings. The game mechanics are way better improved from the PS1 version, and the models are much, much better as well. However, unlike the PS1 version, this game followed the movie much, much closer than the PS1 version. But in terms of the story, this game goes really, really in depth with the story, and really follows the movie real close to a T almost. It almost does certain things better than it does in the movie. For example, like right before Hermione goes to the library and gets petrified, she has a eureka moment with Ron and Harry and says she has to go to the library. If you've seen the movie and you're playing this game, you know what this scene leads up to and you know what's going to happen to her. but it makes so much more sense that she goes to the library and why she was so crazy about it. She has this eureka moment with Ron and Harry literally right after they're talking about the spiders. This is what causes her to have her eureka moment, and it really helps tie the story in together later more than the movie does, just a slight bit. And I did want to test something out as well, and if you go to the library, she's actually in there on the far left side, and if you walk up to her, she'll actually tell you that she can't talk right now. She'll explain later. So if you really wanted to go in depth with it, you could say that Harry actually spoke to Hermione in this game minutes, maybe even seconds before Hermione was petrified. It's just a really daunting thing to think about, and it's really frightening. Another thing this game features a lot of throughout the game is sneaking around. And what I really love about the sneaking around sections in this game is that they will take points from your house if you get caught. It really makes it worth it to not get caught by any of your prefects later in the game. But the reasons that you're leaving the rooms are so incredibly stupid. It's either go get something that you can't get the next day when it's daytime, or Neville or somebody mess something up and you gotta go take care of it. This happens almost every single night at the end of the day. When you end that day, be ready to be sneaking around that night, because mostly every single night you gotta sneak out and grab something. Some of them are a lot easier than others, but you are sneaking out for some really, really dumb reasons. This game follows the movie incredibly close, even up to the Chamber of Secrets. And when you get to the Chamber of Secrets boss fight with the Basilisk is incredibly fun. You have to grab the Sword of Gryffindor and use it essentially as a power sword and shoot the beam at the Basilisk's neck and damage it that way. And you have to do this like 5 or 6 times. But this also goes back to the model, because for some reason, Tom Riddle just doesn't look right here. I don't know why. His face is just a little too big. He looks more like Goyle than anything, and he just doesn't really look like Tom Riddle in this scene. And it was really weird when he died, because that scream is just, whew, it's something. The 100%ing part of this game comes into the wizard card collections as well, and you will collect many, many spells along the way. A lot of them you will earn from classes. Other than that, the 100% ending is a little disappointing. It's exactly the same as the PS1 version. You go to Dumbledore in his office, he's just standing outside it. You walk up to him and he says, "Thanks, Harry. Here's a famous Witches and Wizards card with your name on it. Now you got the whole collection." He's card number 100, of course. And that's it. That's the secret ending. There is technically one other secret ending that you can miss out on, and that's the Gryffindor winning the House Cup. If you get caught enough times, because I actually did have this happen to me as a kid plenty of times, if you get caught enough times throughout the campaign as a Gryffindor, there is one section of sneaking that you have to play as a Slytherin, and yes, if you do get caught, you get points taken away from Slytherin. It is very hilarious because you can lose them like 50 points if you wanted to. It's pretty funny. But there is actually a way that if you get caught enough as Harry when you're sneaking around, you actually lose enough points for Gryffindor that you actually lose the House Cup to Slytherin. There's nothing really that changes much. Malfoy just gives this stupid little smirk, and Harry just kind of gives that little, "Wow, I'm going to get you next time, Malfoy." And the game just ends, and the same credit sequence plays. And yeah, it really makes the 100% feel not worth it in these games when you get endings like that, because what was the point? It's the exact same thing. Why would I need another card of myself when I already had a card of myself? Did he just lose it? However, all in all, Chamber of Secrets is actually one of my favorite Harry Potter games, and it gets an astounding 9 out of 10. Besides the out-of-bounds mechanics and a few story mechanics that are switched around here and there, and that abysmal secret ending that is just a repeat of the first Harry Potter game. And I did check, and yes, it is exactly the same in the PS1 version. You just get another Harry Potter card. So no matter which version you play, you're just getting another version of the card that you already had. But aside from that, this game is astounding, and I give it a 9 out of 10. It's really good, and I recommend it to anybody that's looking for a Potter enjoyment, because this game is really, really fun. And without further ado, we're going to move on to the next game. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was another game that I played the crap out of as a kid, and unfortunately, it's one of the games I have to make a confession on. So I don't know what it is about this game that doesn't want me to beat it, but I bought a brand new Prisoner of Azkaban game, brand new, never opened. It was still sealed in the box. It still had the Harry Potter ticket to Prisoner of Azkaban in it. Ridiculous that someone had the ticket in there still. So I bought this game brand new. I put the game in. I got past the first boss fight, and then I get to the hippogriff scene and black screen. So I tried it on a PlayStation 2. I tried to change the recording around and black screen. And then I tried it again. I tried it on the PlayStation 3 with HDMI, and I cleaned the hell out of the disc even though it was a brand new disc because I thought, why not? Put it back in the game. And so I can't give my thoughts on this game really that much because I didn't beat the game. But to be honest with you, the gameplay of this is actually really fun. It's the first game in the Harry Potter franchise that allowed you to play as someone other than Harry. You got to also play as Ron and Hermione. Some of the spells were tied to them specifically. And this starts that whole only certain characters got certain spells thing, which I didn't like in the Lego games. I don't like them now. I didn't like them later in the franchise. I just don't like when they give characters certain spells that other people can't use. Like, if we're all in the same class, why does only one person learn the spell and the other two don't? It just doesn't make any sense. Like Hermione, for example. She's the only one that gets the Glacius spell, but all of us went in to get the Glacius spellbook. So do Harry and Ron just get demerits and Hermione gets an O? Like, how does that work? Does she just get an outstanding and Ron and Harry get demerits? How does this work? Once again, only one student has to complete the task. Why does the whole class not have to do it? What is going on here, Hogwarts? Check your teachings out. But other than that, I can't really speak much on this game. There is some mini games on the side that you can play. There's owl racing. I had no interest whatsoever to do this because it's so long, takes forever, and it's just not fun. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm far in the lead, and then all of a sudden, here comes the Owls out of nowhere. What did they do to get in first place over me? I was literally ahead of them for this whole race. But by far, my favorite part of this game, and the game that I spent tens of hours on this game as a child, was the dueling club. This mode was absolutely fun as hell as a kid for me. It's a 3-on-3 duel. You can do Hufflepuff, you can do Gryffindor, you can do whoever you want. It's an early version of the dueling that is shown in later games like Order of the Phoenix, which are games I did not play at all until this run through. It's a really early version of the dueling club, and it's actually really cool. I just had one issue with it, and I don't know if this is a story-based thing, that maybe if you beat the campaign, maybe you get it after, but everybody else had this Maleforce spell. It's a spell that literally puts a pumpkin on their head and they can't see. It's the funniest spell ever, and everybody else has it, but you don't, and it kind of sucks because I would have been abusing that spell so much as a kid. Again, I don't know if it's a campaign story-tied thing or something like that, but the bosses in this game, I watched them all. The bosses are actually really, really challenging and really fun to play, and they look really satisfying for the later bosses at least. I was only able to play the first boss before the game shut down on me. But I did take a look at the secret ending, and thank God I didn't 100% this game because, yes, it is exactly the same ending as the first two Harry Potter games. It's just another Harry Potter card. That's all you get. Nothing else. It's just Harry Potter on a wizard card again. And then, of course, when you go see Fred and George, there's multiple things that you can do with Fred and George, just like in the Chamber of Secrets. They're in this bathroom near the Gryffindor common room in both the games. And they just sell you wizard cards and just all kinds of different things. Essentially, they're there to add extra stuff for the 100% runners, but it doesn't really add much to the story, so I didn't really bring them up that much in the Chamber of Secrets. Doesn't make much difference in Prisoner of Azkaban, except other than you can buy more spells than you did in Chamber of Secrets. In Chamber of Secrets, you could only buy the Alohomora spell book. However, in this game, you can buy like 3 or 4 different spells, I believe, and also pages that go into your Folio Brutai as well. And they also give you different challenges to spice up the game a little bit, like hitting these little bowls with stink pellets that are found around Hogwarts, or finding all of Hermione's statues so she can learn more spells. All these extra things really add to the game, but because I didn't play the ending of the game, I can't really add much more to this. But from what I did play from the game, it's around the same as Chamber of Secrets, just a little bit worse. But the spellcasting, unfortunately, is just a lot more uneven, and it just doesn't make much sense. So I give this game a 7 out of 10. It's around the same as the PS1. Had around the same amount of fun with it, and I wish I could have completed this game. It's the only game on this list that I could not 100%. I was very sad about it. However, the next game on the list took a giant step in the right direction. That is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was another game that I didn't really play much of as a kid. And this is where I started falling out of love with the video game side of the franchise. and it was absolutely incredible to go back and finally beat this game. 100%ing this game is almost technically a given, because to get to the final boss in this game, you have to basically grab every single shield that's in the game. And the only thing I didn't like about this game is that when you have to find these shields, you can only find one of them at a time, because when you find the first one, it will teleport you out of the level, making you have to play the level 4 or 5 times. And then sometimes you don't even learn the spells until later on in the game, so you have to wait anyway and then come back and do it again. It's really weird gameplay-wise how they did this game. You can play as whatever character you want in this game. That is kept through the Prisoner of Azkaban. You can play as Ron, Hermione, or Harry. But rather than having it story tied in Prisoner of Azkaban, they just have it to where you can choose whoever you want in the game from the get-go, whenever. And this is actually kind of cool. The way 100%ing this game works is in Triwizard shields that you have to collect around these maps. I looked into whether or not if you collected all the cards in the game, if it did anything. And I didn't think it did, because I actually had the Game Boy Advance version as a kid too. And I had played that one much more than the PlayStation version, because I was always traveling with my parents. And so I was always playing that game on the road on my Game Boy Advance. And man, that game is fun on the Game Boy Advance. It's an absolute joy. I wanted to play that one for this run, but I kept it all PlayStation, so no Game Boy Advance games. But this game was really fun on the Game Boy Advance. I played it a lot, and I actually 100%ed it a lot of times, got all the cards, even though it was a tedious grind. And the game is just really fun. It's essentially just a smaller version of the PlayStation game. And so going to the PlayStation game, this game was really, really fun. And it started following the movie to a T, to where every mainline thing is covered. From the attack at the Quidditch World Cup, to all 3 of the tasks, to the defense against the dark arts with Mad-Eyed Moody, to other things down the line like fighting Voldemort, the graveyard duel, all that good stuff like that. This game is literally almost perfection. The spell casting is beautiful. If you use your spells wrong, you can knock over your teammates, which is hilarious. I'm so glad this was a feature. And this was a feature they kept from this point on. It is actually incredibly hilarious and funny as hell. Whether you play the Game Boy Advance version, the Xbox, PS2, Wii, whatever version it is, this game's fantastic. The only thing that might throw people off is that you have to collect all the shields to progress in the story. And sometimes it may seem a little tedious getting a lot of these shields, but I didn't find many of them that difficult. Especially when I had all the spells in my arsenal after I did Herbology. But man, everything in this game is great. And the Voldemort duel, absolutely fantastic. This game comes in as one of the best endings in a Harry Potter game, because there is no secret ending. And so the regular ending is the actual ending, and so that makes it fine. Because the normal endings for all these games are actually really, really good. It's the secret endings that just don't make any sense. You should have just put these cards somewhere around the map. It's a big misstep in those first 3 games. Luckily, it is taken out of this game, and it is never returning, ever. Like, it doesn't return for the rest of the franchise. It is absolutely awesome. So thank God that's the final one. All in all, I really enjoy Goblet of Fire. It's one of those kind of hit-home games for me. And fighting, whether it's fighting Death Eaters, fighting Dugbogs, fighting any type of other enemies in this game, Acromantulas, it's an absolute blast. And this game is right up there with Chamber of Secrets. It gets a 9 out of 10. The next game on the list is Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. This was a side game that was released in between Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire. However, I played this game after because I wanted to play it right before the Lego games. Get something a little different in after playing the first 4 Harry Potter games. And man, this game surprised the absolute hell out of me. So when I came back and 100% of the story this time around, man, this game's fun. This game is so much fun. This is an early stages of FIFA kind of game. This game is so much fun to play. And if they kept this going, this could have been a game that competed with other sports games. It was so, I cannot tell you guys how satisfying it was to steal the quaffle and throw it into the hoop, or just see a great defensive play from the other team. No matter which side was doing it, it was incredibly fun. The side missions for this game are enjoyable as well. You do secret training with Harry Potter, you do beater training with Fred and George, you have chaser training with Angelina Johnson and Katie Bell, and you have Oliver Wood teaching you everything about the keeper lifestyle. But after the first few games, I will say that this game does become very easy. So after you beat the 4 Quidditch teams, you jump into the World Cup. And this is where I thought, oh, sweet, Gryffindor is going to be in the World Cup. We're going to be taking on, like, Bulgaria and Crumb. We're going to be taking on, like, the Irish. We're going to be taking on, like, so many other teams, England and all that stuff. But that's not what happened. You get to pick one of those teams and take on the rest of those teams. And I really wish there was a way to raise the difficulty challenge, because that's what I think would make it compete with these sports games. It just feels like you're playing on rookie difficulty the entire time. It's very, very easy to play, and once you figure out how to play the game, it's very easy to steal the quaffle whenever you want. And I found myself doing this repeatedly, but because I'm such a huge sports fan, it didn't bother me as much because I really enjoyed playing it and with the commentating in the background. However, I can see how for other people it would be really old and tedious fast for that kind of gameplay. But from a Quidditch game, you can't really expect much more than that. As for the story, there's not really much to this game, because after you beat the Quidditch World Cup, you're just going after Quidditch cards. However, this game is extremely fun. This game is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, and it just does not miss in many sections outside of just being a little too easy. But other than that, it gets an astounding 10 out of 10. It's the first game in the Harry Potter franchise to get a 10 out of 10. And I did not think it would be this one, let me tell you. I thought it was going to be the next game on the list. Without further ado, guys, that is going to bring us to the halfway point of the franchise and the end of this part. Thank you guys for watching this video, and if you stuck around to this part of the video, thank you guys so much, because these last few weeks doing this YouTube thing, it's been absolute joy. It's been the most enjoyable part of my life, and without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this stuff every day, and I really want to do this full time for you guys. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Hit that bell notification so you get notified every time a new video goes live. Part 2 comes out on Wednesday, guys, for the rest of Harry Potter. And then Hogwarts Legacy, guys. We are within 10 days. We are less than 10 days away. I'm live streaming that game, trying to be one of the first people to get the platinum. And I'm grinding that game. We got 40. We made top 50 on Midnight Suns. Let's shoot for top 10. Hopefully even top 5 for Hogwarts Legacy on the PlayStation 5. I got my week covered, guys. I'm ready to play. And I know you guys are ready for that game as well. But without further ado, guys, this has been your boy, the Miracle Man, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Hell could make me happy, and I don't think you have a clue what could that be. They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that can make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous.